Okay, and then I think my microphone should be working fine. Last class, students were saying that they could not hear me. Can you hear me now, everybody online?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. Okay, that's good. So I think we had the wrong microphone to start. Was used last class. All right. So now let me. I don't need this anymore, I think. So I'm gonna start. Okay, recording is already started. Okay. So what I'm going to do is let's just go open up a Visual Studio. So if you're using 2017, it's just slightly different in the first two dialogue. So I'm going to create a new project this time. Okay, so I'm going to just C#, and then make sure you select Windows Forms, which is .NET Framework. Okay, and then let's give a name. Let's call that as my second exercise. Okay, and then make sure you put its location. I like to put location in my desktop. You can put it anywhere. Make sure you understand where to find it. Okay, so I put it in my desktop. All right, and you do not need anything else. Change anything else, and then press OK to move on. Okay, so by default, you're going to have one form, which is called Form 1. Okay, and which is the canvas for us to put things like buttons or text boxes or calendar, anything. Right? People ask, can I change this Form 1 to something more meaningful name? Yes, you can. So this is how you do it. Okay, so follow me. You right mouse click on Form 1. Right mouse click, and then choose rename. Okay, and now let's just say, suppose I change it to main form. And then press enter. It will ask you whether you want to be that name renaming will be synchronized throughout the project. I will tell you which places will be synchronized. Okay, so press yes. Okay, do one more time. Right mouse click on the Form 1. Choose rename. Okay, and then give a name. All right. So suppose I change to main form. I don't want to change to something else. And then will dialog say whether you want that to be synchronized, but the name has been name should be synchronized. So let me tell you which places are synchronized. Okay, first of all, the file name will be changed, right? So that is one place. Secondly, if you click on the program.cs, this name also changed. Used to be Form 1, but now it's changed to main form. All right. The third place, if you click on this, right mouse click and say view code, okay, then you also see this name change. The name form, this class name changed, and this is actually called constructor. I'm going to talk about that just a second, and this name will be changed. Okay, and there's one more place, which is this designer.cs file, and this one will also be changed. So which is inside here. You click on this plus sign, and then this name will be changed too. So actually, no, this place has not been changed. That is interesting. So this text Form 1 has not been changed. So let me change that. Okay, let's go to the main form again. Right mouse click, and go to View Designer, and select that. And then you go to the properties. There's a property window. And well, that's interesting. This is changed, but that code was not changed. So what happened is that if you look at it here, the text was not changed. Okay, the text was not changed. So let's change the text. Okay, text. We change that. This text can be anything. All right. Okay. So that does not matter really. Okay, this is just like what do you want to be title for this form? Okay, so this is main. We change the main dialog. So we can change to anything you like. Okay. and dialog, or main entry form, something. Okay, so you see the name, the text has been changed. Okay, so basically all four places will be changed, synchronized by just right mouse click, say rename. Okay, if for some reason you change it once but not change others, your compilation, after you say your build solutions, you get error messages, then you need to look for those four places to make changes to be synchronized. Okay, so especially if you use older Windows, older Visual Studio, like Studio 2013, you have to go to every place to make changes. All right, so this is how you change the form, change your form name. Now, next, we are going to put the buttons, and then we are going to write a code for this things to start to work. Okay, so for example, if I'm going to put a simple button here. Okay, so let's just give a name for the button. First of all, you know how to get the properties, right? So once again, let me show you the properties. So basically, you have properties window and also events window, events tab, properties and events. We're going to use properties, okay, for now. And then you can also make those properties, like those names in like alphabetical order. So let's say A to Z. And then in that way, you can just look at the names easily. Find the name of the properties easier. Okay, so I'm going to change this to say btn exit. Okay, exit. So just a name for the button, and then I'm going to change the text also. So instead of default button 1, I'm going to call that exit. Okay. So I want X to be hard key, so I'll put an ampersand in front of it. All right, so now we have this button. We have this button exit. So now we really want this exit to do something, okay, to be able to do something. And so we are going to write a code so that when somebody press this button, the code behind it will be executed. Okay, and this kind of programming style is called event-driven programming. So you're writing code corresponding to user actions, user events. Okay, question? Does not matter. This ampersand is just optional. Just make sure that some people like use ALT and then X instead of pressing mouse button. You understand? So make X to be hard key, so people without a mouse can still press the button. Okay, yeah. So event-driven programming, let me just give you a simple idea about event-driven programming. Event-driven programming. Okay, so first of all, you have events. So what are the events? Events is coming from user actions. So for example, at this point, if I'm going to run this form, okay, just press start. So that's equivalent to build and also run double click on executable. So I have this form, right? So I can do a lot of things with this form. So for example, I can click this, I can double click on this, I can mouse over and then mouse leave, okay? You see that? I can also click anywhere on the form. I can close this form. So all those will be considered as event. Okay. Now you're going to write a code to respond to those events. So for example, what if people click the button exit? What kind of thing you want that to be done? So you're going to write a code to respond to that. Now the question is, how does that form know that user did something? That is actually done by Windows, by the operating system. So when a user does something, for example, when I move the mouse over this button, the operating system will inform your program that somebody, click the button, somebody mouse over the button. Make sense? So it's actually you just imagine that the operating system is like something in the middleman, who is detecting those user actions, and then inform you that some events happened. And now you write a code correspond to that. And how do you write a code? So events are just user actions. Okay, and then events are informed, are detected, first of all. Okay. Detected by Windows. So here the Windows is operating system, okay? Which will notify your code, your program, your program. Okay, so now it's up to your program to respond. And now your code will now respond. Okay, so that is the idea. And now let's say how can we write the code to respond? Okay, so let me just exit this one first. So let's go to there's the main form, this thing that which is running. Oh, by the way, let me give you two concepts or two terms or concepts, actually very important concepts we are going to use throughout. And there's something called a class and object. Okay, class and object. This is object, something you can touch, you can see when something is running. This is an object. Okay, so basically there's a Windows object, there's a form object, and there's a button object. Okay, so all those objects. And then if you close that, and there's something you design here. This is one. Okay, this form and this button, they are classes. They are classes. Okay, so when you open it, you run it, you get one instance of that class called objects. Okay, so we have one object, one form object, one button object. But then we close that. This is, when you're designing the form, this is a button class, and this is form class. Okay, so I showed you that when you mouse over, when you go to view code, you see that there's a class, right? Class main form, which is a kind of form. And then this is actually called a constructor. We'll get into that. Okay, so now let's go back to the main form again. Okay, so now the question, where can we write a code so that when somebody click on this, then the code will be executed. So first of all, the code to execute this, to exit this project is easy. Just say application.exit. I'm going to show you that. But where do I write the code? So to write the code, first of all, you select the button, and then you find the events that you want to respond to. So everybody follow me. So now we are going to the properties window, but we are going to events tab. So you see that there are many events, okay? And then you can write code to respond to any events, but of course for buttons, mostly meaningful events will be click. Make sense? So we're going to write a code correspond to that event. So now we are ready to write a code. So listen, yeah. So go to properties, make sure the button is selected, okay? The exit button is selected. Okay? And then you go to properties, and then you see this live anything called events, okay? Click on that. And you can also make them to be alphabetical ordered, sorted, all right? And now let's go to click, final click. And at this place, you double click. So now Visual Studio will automatically create something like this, and this is called a function. And we are ready to write a code. And this function will in the form of btn exit, that's the name of the button, underscore click. Okay? So this function name is kind of interesting, right? Function name is interesting. So function name kind of like indicate that this corresponds to some kind of button click. Okay, good. So that is not the name does not really mean anything. Just be descriptive. Okay, it does not mean that you have this name, then this code will respond to a button click. Will not. Okay, I'm going to show you which place we actually show that this function will be executed when somebody clicks the button. Okay, so now let's write a code. The code is very simple. First of all, I'm going to call application class. Capital A, application. Okay, and then dot. Okay, and then say exit as also capital. Exit. All right, and then when you say this, like, what is this called? This is like a diamond, right? You see that? And this diamond is more like a function, like a command. Okay, so whenever you type a command, don't forget you need to put parentheses. And in this case, there's nothing in the middle. You need to put in, but sometimes we need to put like a parameters or values to be provided. Okay, so we'll get into that just maybe in the future. So for now we just parentheses, close parentheses, and semicolon, and then that is complete the command to exit. You have a question? Dot. Yeah. Question, yeah. The application is a class which is more like a just like a whole application, okay, representing your whole program, whole project. Yeah.
Would it be considered a class?
Yeah, would be considered a class. Yeah, this application would be considered a class. So I'm going to talk about a class object in a second. So for now, you just copy that. Yeah. Parentheses, yeah. So when you do like this, you say something like a dot, right? Dot. You're going to say two kind of icons. One is like this, like a tool thing. That's for properties. I'm going to tell you how to handle that. And the second type is like this. Is this diamond? Something like this. Okay, this is indicate that is a command. Okay, so this representing properties and this command. So when you have a command, make sure you have to have parentheses always. Okay. So sometimes inside the parentheses, you need to provide some additional information. I'm going to give you another example to show that you need the parameters. All right. Good. So at this point, I'm going to show you how let's run it first, and then I'm going to tell you where is actually the place tell that this code will respond to the events. Okay, let's run this. Okay, let's go to start button. Should have no error message. Okay, you get that? Okay, now if you press exit, and then exit, the program exit. All right, so basically the code is responding to the event, click. All right, so how does the program know that? So if you go to the designer.cs, okay, and then there is a place which will tell what will happen if somebody clicks the button. You see that? That is a one-line code. One-line code will tell us that if somebody clicks the button, you run this function. Run this function. The function was created also. You should have no errors. So if you go to say build solutions, you should say no what? Zero failed. Yeah, so I did not make any changes. Should say zero failed. Okay, so zero failed. No, nothing failed. No errors. If you get error message, you will show with the underlined, okay, like a red lines, and then double click on the red lines, make changes. Yeah, semicolon. Okay, yeah, every statement ends with semicolon. Yeah. Which one? This one? So let me see whether I can zoom. Is that better? Okay. Now let me go to the main code here. So you do not need to make changes for the designer thing. Okay, designer thing is automatically generated. You do not make any changes in there. Okay, so just make sure that the code we're going to write is this. Just a one-line code for now. Okay. All right, good. Now let's create a second. Yeah. That's just indicating the green. Let me say what is overline. So it's sometimes has some kind of warning message. That just means the mouse is over there selected. Doesn't mean anything.
This right there, because yours extends from line 24 through 19. So I thought that some relation.
Because
So I was
should have
thinking,
no.
is there like a relation to that?
I don't know. That should not have any. I think I never pay attention to that. So good question. So what does this green line means? So this green line just no, it doesn't mean anything. Good question. I don't know what does your green line indicate. So let me do that again. It's still there. And here I have. So that just means this place I am looking at. That's not a highlight. No, I don't know what is it.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's not. That doesn't matter. I never pay attention to that. Okay, so when you get some kind of like a red line, that typically indicates some kind of errors or warnings. But for green line, no problem. Okay, now let's go to the form again. Go to form again. Then this time, let's create another button. I'm going to call another function so that it will use parameters. So button. Okay, so I'm going to make that aligned. And then go to properties this time. Give a name. Okay, let's say this is BTN Great. Okay, great. And then let's just say text is greeting. And let's make a G to be underlined. Okay. So this is another button. Now let's say make sure this button is selected. This time I will write another code so that when I press this button, it will show up another dialog window. Have something like a, good afternoon or good evening, or maybe just simply say hello, okay, or welcome. So I will go to the events again. Hit double click. Now we're creating another function. So this time I'm going to use something called a message box. Message box, okay, and then dot show. So when you dot, you have only 3 methods. I will use a show, okay, and then parentheses. Don't forget to put the parentheses. So you say this time inside the parentheses you have text, right? So you have a text. Now you just need to put a text. So whenever you put a fixed text, put inside double quotes, okay? So I'm going to put double quotes here. So welcome to business applications development. Okay, suppose this is message. And then again, don't forget to put a semicolon to end every statement. So that's a C#. C#, C, Java, everything. Okay, not everything, just in those programming languages, C, C++, Java, C#, ends with semicolon. Statement ends with semicolon. Okay. All right. And again, when I do that, there's a handler will be created inside the designer.cs, which will tell that, when somebody press second button, this message, this command will be executed. Okay. Now let's run it. Great. So there you go. You have a message. Make sense? Okay. Go to start, just simply start a button. Yeah. Just run the start. This start button is actually doing compilation and also run the code. All right. Okay. Now let's do one more, and then we're going to talk. I'm going to talk about a so-called object-oriented programming language. Okay. Okay. So this time, go to the design view again. Anybody has questions online? No questions? Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's good.
All right. Now let's say this time I'm going to create a text box. Create a text box. Or maybe a label. Does not matter, does it? Just label. Okay. So I'll put a label here. Okay. And then let's say the label, I'm going to have properties first. First of all, you need to have a name. So LBL, say date. Okay, date. Yeah. Your form disappeared. Okay, just double click on this main form here. Diagnostic. So your program is not open? So make sure it's closed. Yeah, yeah. Your program, when you're running the program, this will not be displayed. Yeah. Just press this close button or exit button. Just program. Okay. Fix it. Is it working now? You press exit. Okay, it's already closed. Let me see. Just press this square. This red square. Press that red square. No. Menu. Right here. Yeah. Click 6. Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now just put a label on the top. So what I want to do is I want the label to automatically show the current time. Understand? Okay. So select the label. So go to toolbox and put a label on it, and then give a name. Let's call that LBL.date. LBL date. Okay. LBL date. All right. And then we don't even bother with text. We can just type anything. Current date. Okay. Current time. Current time. Okay. Or just leave it empty. That's fine. All right. So now, remember, this time I want to do something a little bit different. Instead of users doing something, I want this when I run this program, I want this automatically show current time. Okay, so that events corresponding to form load. When form loads, you want to put a current time in here. Make sense? Now let's see how can we do that, all right? So first of all, select the form, entire form. Click, don't double click, just click the form, make form is selected. And then here, say the properties, you make sure that this property is for the form. Do you see that, main form? You see my mouse moving here? To make sure that, the form is selected. And now let's go to this flashing, this events. And then you see the load event, right? Load event. And then double click on the load event. And now we are ready to type a message. LBL date dot text. Okay, equals to, yeah. So just a second. Okay, let me finish this. Now, if you go to the forms, and then make sure the form is selected, right? And it's reflected. If you look at the properties window, right beneath that, there's a form, right? The form is selected. And then you go to the flashing events, and then go to load, and then double click on that. And then, people online, are you okay? Don't select label, select the form, because we want the form load. When the form loads, and we want to change the label. So let's do it again. Okay, let's make sure the form is selected. Okay, you can click anywhere on the form, all right? Don't double click. Form selected, and then you go to the events, and then you say the load event, right? Double click on that. All right, so now we are ready to write the code. So how do I get a current time? To get a current time, I'm going to use another class called a date time class. Okay, data time class. And then I use that data time class dot now. And that is a property, right? You see that there's a property. It's like a tool icon. So for that, you do not need parentheses. You can just do semicolon to end. Make sense? Good. However, now you have the problem. This is the curly red line underlines. That just means that if you mouse over, it will tell you what does it mean. It means that on the left-hand side, you're supposed to have a text, but then the right-hand side is actually a time. They are different. Understand? So this is what we do. We have to make sure that whatever we are going to set for the text has to be text. So we have to change this to text. Change this time to text. Okay? To do that, this is the function we are going to call. We will call convert to string. Convert to string. String is text. And then parentheses. And then close this whole thing with another closing parenthesis. Now both sides will be matching. So whenever you have different kinds of data on both sides, then make sure you change the right-hand side type to be of the left-hand side type. So convert to string, convert to data time, convert to integer, convert to double. So all that will allow you to do the conversions. Okay, to make sure that left-hand side and the right-hand side are the same kind of data. Question? To string, make sure is follow the word. Okay, to string is exactly, yeah. Capital, small letters make differences. So it's case sensitive. All right. All right, now you can try. Should be working. All right, so this is current time. It would be nice to have this text to be that the time to change automatically, right? Why it doesn't change? Because this is only when the form loads, you get a time. After the finishing, it just stay there. Say it again. No, does not change. No, this time does not change because it's not the time was obtained when the form loads, and then stopped. Okay, so how do you make it continuous? You want to learn that? Yes, you can do that. You can do that, but just basically put a clock on it, and the clock will tick every tick, and then you change this time. Okay, so we'll do that later. Okay. So it's doable. Actually, it's not that difficult. It's easy. Just let me close this first. So if you want to do that outside yourself, just go to that toolbox, and then you find the clock. You see clock anywhere? Timer right here. Okay. Use timer. Not yeah. Timer is clock. Yeah. Yeah. Use timer, and then every tick you just change the code again, so that will code. Then you get a dynamic time. Okay. All right, and now let's do one more thing. This time I'm going to have 2 text boxes and then use a button to do calculations. Okay, so it will involve data conversions, calculation, and display the result. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to create 2 text boxes. Is this one?
Yeah, because I want to mean.
Okay, go to press this red square. Press red square.
Oh, okay, it'll stop.
Red square. Yeah, red square. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Anybody have questions online? Okay, no problem. All right. So at this point, let's say I want to create 2 text boxes. And the first one we'll just give a name, all right? So let's go to properties. And give a name, let's call that as txt8. Okay, txt8. And then let's go to another text box. Okay, let's call that txtb. Okay, and then let's put a button. Put a button here. Let's just say the button. For the button, let's just give a name. Let's say I want to do division. btn divide. Okay, divide. And then let's change the text. The text is divide. All right, pretty simple, right? So I'm going to put 2 numbers in here and then press this button, divide, and then we'll get the result. And I will use the message box to show the result. Okay? So when you run this, you typically, people put a code, put a number here, and put some kind of number here, and then press this button. So the code should respond to this button click, right? So I'm going to put a code behind this button again, okay? So let's exit this one first. Okay. So now let's put a code behind this button. And so go to the events, and then find a click, and then double click. Okay. All right. So now let's say the numbers. Yeah, question. Go to event, go to click. Click, yeah, just simply click, always by default. All right, so now let's see, how can we do the division, right? First of all, people put numbers into their text boxes, and then I have to get to the numbers. All right, I have to get those numbers. So that way, when you put things inside text box, they are text. They start with text. So they are not numbers. All right. So for numbers, we can have either integer or decimal numbers. Everybody knows the difference, right? Decimal numbers, which have like decimal places, right? No, integers are whole numbers. You have -1, -2, those are negative integers. But then you can know, you generate even whole numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, those things you can count, okay? So let's say, depending on whether we want numbers to be decimal numbers or whole numbers, we can define them differently. So first of all, let's say I want to just have like something called a variable. We are going to get a variable next class, but now we'll just say the variable is like a temporary place to hold data, all right? So let's say I want to have 2 temporary places to hold data from those text boxes. And let's say I want them to be whole numbers, so integer, okay? Let's say integer A, okay, that's the one place. And then integer B, the second temporary place. I want these two temporary places to hold data from text boxes. So I'm going to say A equals to txt A dot text. Okay, if you put a semicolon here, now you say that you're going to get that same kind of problem we had before. So you know what to do, right? Because left-hand side is like an integer, right? Is number, but right-hand side is text. They are not the same. So we have to change whatever on the right-hand side into numbers, into integers. So I'm going to do convert again. Convert to what? To integer. To integer here. And now, unfortunately, this time we have 3 choices. Either integer 16, integer 32, and integer 64. So what are those? They are just simply bits. 16 bits, or 42 bits, or 64 bits. Okay? So by default, this integer I want is 32 bits, so 4 bytes. So let's choose that one. Okay? And I'm going to talk about other type of integers next class. Okay, so just do that. So integer 32. And now you can do the same thing for B. So B equals to and txt B text. Okay, and then semicolon. But then this is also incompatibility of the text with numbers. So we change the text into numbers. So convert to integer 32 again. Okay. All right. And now let's do, we already have 2 numbers. Now we are ready to do divisions, right? We're ready to do divisions. So we are going to do, so let's say I'll put a result into another temporary place called result. Okay. Integer. Or integer result is another temporary place. And now let's say result equals to A divided by B. Okay, so that's division. Okay, now we are ready to show the result. We use a message box to do that. Message box .show. Okay, and then you can put result in there. Okay, put result in there. And now you see that you have a compatibility problem. Can anybody tell me what is wrong with this curly red line? Inside, you have the type of code. It has to be text. But is this result a text? This result is not a text, right? It's a number. So now we have to change that to text. Okay? So what do? Convert to string. So we're changing numbers into text. You see that? Okay. All right, now let's run it. And I'm going to improve this code in 2 other places. But for now, let's run to see we will get everything, the basic stuff. Yeah.
Always need to define your variable type when you assign them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you always have to decide you want to have a temporary place to hold the data. What kind of data you want to hold? Yeah.
Converting back to string, does that mean not showing up in the graphical interface if they're in like the integer format and not the string format?
Yeah, we'll be showing numbers, but number will be converted as text. So basically, you're going to have something like this. Let's say if I put something like this. So for example, if I put say 1, 2, 3, that's a number, right? But you put it inside double quotes, so that becomes text. Make sense?
Yeah.
But then you change, if you do convert to integer, then we'll get it back. So if you use you change it to 1, 2, 3. If you do convert to integer 42. If you apply that, put it inside here, say 1, 2, 3, like that, and that will become this. Make sense? Yeah. So otherwise, if you have 1, 2, 3, and then you say to string, then they will actually essentially just put double quotes around it. Okay, even though it's a number. All right. So now let's run this code. Run this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put some simple things here. So let's say this is a whole number, integer. And then let's put another integer here. Okay? And then divide. You get this result. Okay? Get this result. Okay, now let me try something which is easy for you to understand. 3 divided by 4. And somebody tell me what is it? 0.75. Now let's run it. Do you get a 0.75? No. Why? You only get the quotient only. So integer divided by integer, you only get the quotient only. Okay? Now you don't get a remainder. And we'll tell you what those integer division and those things later. But for now, just remember, integer divided by integer, you only get the whole quotient only. Okay? All right, so now this is the first place I want to change. The second place I want to change is I want to maybe have some kind of a meaningful text to put in front of this. Say the result, the division result is this, something like that, right? So I will add a simple text in front of this result. I'll put inside double quotes and say the result is double quotes. Now we essentially have 2 texts, but then I need to combine them, put them together. So to do that, just put a plus sign. So the plus sign in this case is simply just concatenation. Concatenate 2 pieces of text into 1. Make sense? So if you have Jiang, double quotes Jiang plus double quotes Dou, then you basically have Jiang Dou together. So now if you run it, so let's say put some numbers here, put some numbers here. Okay. So you get something like a more meaningful question, more meaningful response. Okay? Response is that. There's you need to put space after is, but the space before and after plus does not matter. Oh. Okay. Okay. People online, do you have any questions? All right. Now let's do one more event-driven code, and then I'm going to talk about object-oriented programming style. So this time let's do something simple. Something simple. This is what I would do. When I mouse over this label, I want this color to change to red. And then when I mouse leave, I want this color go back to black. Understand what I mean? So here, if I mouse over this label, I want this text to be showing as a red color. But then when I mouse leave, I want to change it back to black. Make sense? Okay, so of course, what is the event? Event is going to be mouse over this label, right? So you select this label, and then you find a mouse over, mouse enter event, and then write the code. Okay? So now let's do that. So select this label first. Select this label, and then go to properties. No, not property, go to events. Go to events, and then find events which correspond to mouse enter right here. Right here, mouse enter, yeah. Okay. Get that? Okay, so I'm going to double click and then say what I'm going to do. I'm going to say lbl date dot. So that should be back. Is that 4 color? Yeah, 4 color. 4 color. 4 color is text color, and the background color is background. So 4 color. So I want this foreground color change to different color. Change to what color? To color. So there's color, and then you select which color you want. I'll say red color. Okay. So this time, this is called enumeration, just like a class, and this just like a property. So because that this color enumeration has a list of possible colors you can choose. Okay, so that's it. That's all you need to do. So right mouse click, run it. The mouse over, you see the text change to red color. So what you need to do next is simply just when I mouse leave, I want this text to change back to black color. Can you do that? So let's go to the forms again. Make sure this label is selected. And this time I'm going to do mouse leave. Mouse leave right here. Okay? Mouse leave. So do something similar. The 4 color. And this time we'll do color dot black. So you could have many different colors to choose from. There you go. So that is how you respond to mouse leave events. Question? Mouse hover is when your mouse moving over the text. Yeah. So here, mouse, yeah, pretty similar. Yeah. All right. Now let's do. So we are done with hands-on part. Now let's do a little bit lecture. So we have like 20 minutes left, right? 15 minutes left. Okay. So I'm going to tell you object-oriented programming style. So we have tried writing a few lines of code, and all this code will follow the same style. Okay. Does everybody follow me? Okay. So I'm going to put this aside and then open just this whiteboard. Where's your pen? Got it. Okay. So we're talking about OO, object-oriented programming. So in OO object programming, you are going to write commands, okay? But all commands will be executed, will be done by something called object. Okay, so before you can run any commands, you have to have object. And this is how you create objects. First of all, you have to have a class. So you can just imagine class is like a template. For example, if I have airplane template, airplane, okay? That is a class. And then airplane class can be used to create airplane objects. So this is, let's say A, this is object. Okay, so this is class. Class is just like a template to create, this is object A. All right, and then this is just like a declare a new variable, like what we did, like integer A, integer B, same thing. All right, but then we actually have to create actual object. So then we'll have the equals to new, that's a keyword, that's the same thing. This is a keyword, okay? So you don't change that. And then you say airplane. And this is same name as this one, just same that, except that this one has to have a parenthesis. And this is called constructor. So which is actually create object. So you can just imagine constructor is like a factory to actually manufacture this object. Okay? And then semicolon. So this is how you create objects. Use the class, and then the name of the object equals to new, and then the constructor. The constructor is always have the same name as that. All right? After have this object, now you can write the commands. And this is how you write the commands. One type of command simply say a dot, for example, property. You set the property, say maybe airplane, what, model, dot model. That's a property. So you will say that like a tool icon, okay? And then that equals to, for example, Boeing 737. So that's a model, right? And then semicolon. So this is one, just a command. So you basically said, for the object you just created, this airplane object you just created, and you specify the model number is Boeing 737. Okay, let's do that again. Suppose I also want to have like a manufacture date, manufacture date. Okay, so that date, manufacture date, supposed to be now. Then you say date, time, dot now. Remember, this is simply just a property. Semicolon, no parentheses. All right? So this is how you can use object's property to change properties, set properties. Okay? And then the more common command will be like this. Say, for example, I want this airplane to fly. So you simply say a dot fly. And that is command. So for command, you always have to have parentheses and the closing parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you need to provide some kind of like argument or parameter values. Okay, so parameter value in this case might be I say fly from Akron, okay, comma, to New York. So in this case, I provide two arguments for this function. So basically this tells that, this object, please fly from Akron to New York, and then semicolon, like that. So all future programming is going to be in this style. Okay? Now let's do something a bit more meaningful that actually we can, the airplane, we do not have airplane inside this Visual Studio, but we do have something which we can actually to use. For example, pen. Okay? So the pen is used for drawing, right? I think next week, I'm going to show you how to do drawing using Visual Studio. So let's say I want to create the pen object. So I will use the pen class first, and then say my pen. That is name of the object. Okay, and then say new equals to new pen. Okay, so this is class, this is object, this is the constructor. Okay, and if you want to create, so then after we have the pen, we can actually use the pen to draw. Okay, we use the pen to draw. We will do that next class. Now, if we want to actually create something, a pen with certain color, we can also do that. So let's say pen, and then U pen equals to new pen. But this time I will use specific color. Say color dot red. So then this pen will be in a red color. Okay, let's do it again. Suppose I want to create another one which is not a pen but a brush. So I will create something called a solid brush. Solid brush. Okay, and then I say this is B. Okay, just the name of the brush object. And then say new brush, solid brush. And now we can also do a color for the brush. So we can say color, say green. Semicolon. And now after you have this object B, you will be able to use the B to draw things. Okay, draw things on the form, for example. Okay, so those are the style we are going to use to create objects. Those are objects. This is object. This is object. This is object. And after we have the object, then we can just use this, set the object property, and then call object to do something. Okay, for example, pen, draw, and then you can actually draw or circles or draw lines or that. Okay, so that is a simple style, so-called object-oriented programming style. So any commands is going to be in the form of objects. It's going to be in the objects, and then you use objects to execute to set object properties or ask objects to do something. Okay, to perform actions. Okay, so this is how we are going to write. We are writing code. So if you follow that, you basically say this. We are doing something like that, right? So this LBL date for color. Basically, we are setting the properties, right? And then we have not. This is actually command. So message box show. So basically, this command you ask that to show something. All right. I think that's it. That's all for today. Let me see whether you have any questions. Any questions? No. Okay. So then we'll see you Wednesday, everyone. Anybody have questions online? I'm going to stop recording.